Hi everyone, I hope you are all well. Now, I have just done something that I haven't done in the longest time, and that is I have just read a book from cover to cover in less than 24 hours, and that book was Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Now, when I say I haven't done that in the longest time, I'm talking about the longest time. If I read a book rather quickly, it's usually like a couple of days. It Obviously short stories you can get through relatively quickly, but I don't tend to read short stories. I tend to read, a bit chunkier ones like this, and so reading a book in the space of a day isn't really an option anymore. As I've gotten older, it's that thing that stuff gets in the way, there's stuff I've got to do and everything. When I was a teenager, yeah, I could probably about do it, but I haven't done it in the longest time. So the fact that I've just done that with this book, I think you can tell that I'm going to absolutely rave about this book, and I totally am. This is one of the best books I've read in the longest time. I started reading this yesterday at 7:45, and I know that because I sent a message to my sister and our friend Sarah to say, right, here we go. And so I started reading it, thinking that I'd only read it for like an hour or so, and by 10:30 in the evening, I'd read 322 pages of a 372-page book, and I was just so tired because the night before I'd stayed up till like nearly midnight, so I was already a bit tired anyway, and I was just like, you know what, I'm really tired, I need to get some sleep. So I fell asleep. I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning, and I just sat straight away. As soon as I opened my eyes, I was like, grabbed my book that I'd left on my bedside table, started reading it, and finished it, and my god, it was such a good read. I cannot believe how good it is and how I've gone all this time and not read it. It is insane. So this book, just in case you don't know, Ready Player One is set in the year 2044. And it follows a guy called Wade, who's there, who lives in basically these trailers are stacked on top of one another because it's kind of a dystopian situation where there's been food crisis, oil crisis, there's mass starvation, there's energy issues and such. And so in order to deal with refugees and such in various cities, and that these like trailers got stacked on top of each other so they could get as many people in possibly in a smaller space. And he lives in one with his aunt, and both his parents are dead, and the only kind of escape he has from the world is this thing called the Oasis, which absolutely everyone in the world uses. And it's like a virtual reality world in which you can go in, you can earn money, you can play all type of video games. You basically, it's your second person, it's your second self, and because everything is so mental in the world, everyone logs into it 24/7. So it is the kind of new universe, as it were. And its creator, Halliday, has died of cancer in the opening chapter. And he has left a message to everyone in the world to say that he is leaving the Oasis, his mass fortune, everything, to the player who is able to find the egg that he has hidden inside the Oasis. Yeah, they have to get through 3 levels to get 3 separate keys, and then the keys will unlock to the final game in which they can claim the egg. And it's all about Wade and finding these keys, finding the Easter egg, finding out more about Halliday. And also there's an opposing company called IOI who are after it as well, and their leader is this guy called Sorrento, and Wade has to try and beat them at the same time and make sure they don't get to the gate. And we follow various friends that he meets along the way, and people he's already met, and especially I loved his best friend H. Sorry. But yeah, so that's basically the gist of the story. I fell head over heels in love with this. I didn't intend to. It wasn't like, because even though I picked it up a couple of times in a bookshop, when you stood by a stack of books for like 5 minutes, you read it, but you don't really, in a sense, take it in. And so when I sat down right here on my sofa yesterday, about nearly 24 hours ago, because it's 7:30 in the morning now, and I started it at 7:45 yesterday, I didn't I didn't anticipate that I would get so sucked into it. I got to a point where this morning, pardon me, this morning I had I was reading the sequence and a character got killed, and I was really upset. I was like, oh my god, how could you do this to me, Ernest? This is killing me. And then about 2 or 3 minutes later, I realised, hang on, they're in the Oasis, which means his avatar was killed, which means he hasn't been killed, so he's still alive, but he just can't play in the game at the moment. And that absolutely threw me. I was so caught up in this thing. I was imagining that this was the real people. This wasn't the virtual world of the Oasis. And for a writer to do that, to kind of catch me that much, to like pull the rug under my feet like that, that's awesome. That is such a skill, and I love Ernest Cline for writing this book. I have to get his next book now. Because this came out in 2011, and his second book, I think it was that 2015, 2016 that it came out. So I definitely, I'm going to look, next time I'm in town, which would be Tuesday when I'm back at work because it's the bank holiday, I would definitely be going straight to Waterstones on my lunch break and trying to find his second book if they've got it. Yeah, the way in which he writes is wonderful, because what he does is that he allows you to get to know Wade. Everything is written from Wade's point of view. It's him writing basically his story, and everything that happened to him. So you're following Wade constantly, but you start to explore people and understand people as Wade comes to understand them too. And it's so interesting about how the persona of what you think people are versus who they really are, and you really see that in his friends, especially Artemis and H. I love H. I think H is a wonderful, wonderful character, and as he's writing and let you know the true backstories of these characters, and you understand why they came to Oasis, why they use it. It's so relatable. It's mental. The only difference between us at the minute and obviously the world of the Oasis is that the Oasis is a complete, you have to wear bodysuits and everything, and you've to be able to enter this world. And we as gamers at the moment, we don't necessarily wear bodysuits and everything, but we're getting near that point, and it's crazy that we are. That's the only difference between why we use games now. We still use it for the same ways, to escape from the world, to deal with things, to be able to have the confidence to be who we are. We still do that same thing, just as the characters in this book. So it is so relatable, and I have to say, bravo, Ernest. Thank you so much for the chapters that are based in films. The use 80s reference in this book are absolutely fabulous. All the arcade games, the films, especially the chapters relating to when Wade is in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, one of my favourite films ever, and War Games, one of my favourite films ever. Just absolutely blew my mind, and I was beaming. I was absolutely beaming throughout those chapters. But there's so many references to stuff, like I said, arcade games, music, film, games like Dungeons and Dragons, writers, directors, all of these fabulous things. And of course the reference to Wil Wheaton. He referred to him a couple of times and he was praising him. So, because as you know, I got the audiobook as well. I listened to the audiobook as I was reading. Something, again, I don't often do, but because it was unabridged and I wanted to listen to the audiobook as well as read the physical book, sorry, whilst for this review, I thought, you know what, I'll listen and read it at the same time, thinking, just as I did when I started this yesterday, oh, I'll read for an hour or so and I'll see how I go, not thinking that I was going to be here 24 hours later letting you know how I came to the end of the book. But Will Wheaton, when I have to bow down to this audiobook. This is one of the best audiobooks I've listened to in a long while. Will Wheaton really brought this to life. It was wonderful. And the bits where he referred to himself, because he's referred to in the book and saying how awesome he is, you can kind of hear in the tone of his voice that he's got a grin on his face as he's saying that. It was fabulous. He really built up the atmosphere, the tone. He put punctuation and a passion behind lines where when you read it on the page, because there's nothing to reference how the character is saying it or if they're being sarcastic or whatever, but the fact that he put that in himself really brought it to life. I absolutely adored this audiobook. I will listen to it over and over again, and Will Wheaton was an absolutely fabulous choice for it. I'm so thrilled that I've read this book, that I listened to that audiobook. It was wonderful. I want to read a bit. It's a couple of pages, but just to give you an idea of the world that Wade lives in, to be able to escape the world and everything. The creator of the Oasis, Halliday, who wrote a book called The Almanac, which basically covers all things about his life and that, and it's become kind of like a Bible to people who love the Oasis, and especially to Wade, and fuels his obsession with 1980s, just as lots of other people who fuels their obsession with 1980s. Everybody dresses in that style, listens to the music, the films, all that stuff. But on a personal level, this is Wade's obsession explained, basically. Okay, so the Almanac contained thousands of references to Halliday's favourite books, TV shows, movies, songs, graphic novels and video games. Most of these items were over 40 years old, and so free digital copies of them could be downloaded from the Oasis. If there was something I needed that wasn't legally available for free, I could almost always get it by using the Gunternet, a file-sharing program used by Gunters around the world. Gunters, just so you know, they are the people who are dedicated to finding the keys and everything to get through to find the egg. It's the kind of the code name that they gave each other. So, when it came to my research, I never took any shortcuts. Over the past 5 years, I'd worked my way down the entire recommended Gunter reading list. Douglas Adams, Kurt Wagner, Neil Stevenson, Richard K. Morgan, Stephen King, Orson Scott Card, Terry Pratchett, Terry Brooks, Bester, Bradbury, Haldeman, Heinlein, Tolkien, Vance, Gibson, Gaiman, Sterling, Moorcock, Scalzi, and Zalansky. I read every novel by every single one of Halliday's favourite authors. I didn't stop there. I also watched every single film he referred to in the Almanac, and if it was one of Halliday's favourites like War Games, Ghostbusters, Real Genius, Better Off Dead, or Revenge of the Nerds, I rewatched it until I knew every single scene by heart. I devoured each of Halliday's references to as the Holy Trilogies: Star Wars, the original and prequel trilogies in that order, Lord of the Rings, The Matrix, Mad Max, Back to the Future, and Indiana Jones. Halliday once said that he preferred to pretend that the other Indiana Jones films, from Kingdom of Crystal Skull onward, didn't exist. I tended to agree. I also absorbed the complete filmographies of each of his favourite directors: Cameron, Gilliam, Jackson, Fincher, Kubrick, Lucas, Spielberg, Del Toro, Tarantino, and of course Kevin Smith. I spent 3 months studying every John Hughes teen movie and memorising all the key lines of dialogue. Only the meek get pinched, the bold survive. You could say I covered all the bases. I studied Monty Python, and not just Holy Grail either. Every single one of their films, albums and books, and every episode of the original BBC series, including the 2 lost episodes they did for German television. I wasn't going to cut my corners. I wasn't going to miss something obvious. Somewhere along the way, I started to go overboard. I may in fact have started to go a little insane. I watched every episode of The Greatest American Hero, Airwolf, The A-Team, Knight Rider, Misfits of Science, and The Muppet Show. What about The Simpsons, you ask? I know more about Springfield than I know about my own city. Star Trek? Oh, I did my homework. TOS, TNG, DS9, even Voyager and Enterprise. I watched them all in chronological order. The movies too, Phasers, Locked on Target. I gave myself a crash course in 80s Saturday morning cartoons. I learned the names of every last goddamn GoBot and Transformer, Land of the Lost, Thunder and the Barbarians, He-Man, Schoolhouse Rock, G.I. Joe. I knew them all, because knowing is half the battle. Who was my friend when things got rough? HR Pufnstuf. Japan? Did I cover Japan? Yes indeed. Anime and live action. Godzilla, Gamera, Star Blazers, The Space Giants, and G-Force, Go Speed Racer Go. I wasn't some delegate. I wasn't screwing around. I memorised every last Bill Hicks stand-up routine. Music? Well, covering all the music wasn't easy. It took some time. The 80s was a long decade, 10 whole years, and Halliday didn't seem to have had much discerning taste. He listened to everything. So did I too. Pop, rock, new wave, punk, heavy metal. From the Police to Journey to R.E.M. to The Clash, I tackled it all. I burnt through the entire They Might Be Giants discography in under 2 weeks. Devo took a little longer. I watched a lot of YouTube videos of cute geeky girls playing 80s cover tunes on ukuleles. Typically, that wasn't part of my research, but I had a serious cute geeky girls playing ukuleles fetish that I can neither explain nor defend. I memorised lyrics, silly lyrics, by the band names that were like Van Halen, Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, and Pink Floyd. I kept at it. I burnt the Midnight Oil. Did you know that the Midnight Oil was an Australian band in 1987 who had a hit titled Beds Are Burning? I was obsessed. I wouldn't quit. My grades suffered, and I didn't care. When I read that, I was just like, oh my god, this is awesome. Every reference, all the way that the world is built, the characters are so personal, so real, it's so relatable. I went through every emotion under the sun. I absolutely adored going into the movies. Oh my god, I just loved it. I loved this book, and I strongly recommend it to anyone. And the fact that I read it in 24 hours just shows how much I loved it, because it's not often I do that now. But yeah, so that's what I thought of Ready Player One, and just as I loved the book, I really strongly recommend the audiobook. Now the film, because I saw the film first, is very different from the book, but I still enjoyed the film. I thought it was it was a good film. So I kind of feel like the film for this, like I feel with the Harry Potter films, they're really quite different from the books, but I still love it. I still respect them for making it. Spielberg did a great job, but yeah, it is very different. So don't go into the book thinking you're going to come across the exact same things as what you do in the film. But I still recommend the film because I thought it was a good little film. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I can't think of anything else to say. But if you read this book, I'd love to know what you think. You can leave me a comment in the comments box below, or give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Entirely up to you, I'll let you decide. And I will let you guys know which book I'm going to be reading next in my next video. Alright guys, bye!